The sea comes over the side, not as a wave, as a wall. You are bailing before your eyes are even fully open, scooping water out of the bottom of the boat with a wooden pail, and the man beside you does not stop rowing. There is no deck to crawl under. There is no cabin. The boat is open to the sky, and the sky is the color of wet slate. It is sometime in the 10th century. You are weeks out of Norway, somewhere in the gray nothing between Iceland and a new land they are calling Greenland. The water that just soaked you to the skin is only a few degrees above freezing. Here is the part that should stop you cold. The Norse did this on purpose. Again and again, for generations, they pushed open boats across more than 1,000 miles of the most violent ocean on Earth. And most of the time, they came back. How? Start with the thing under your feet. The boat. Because everything you are about to survive, you survive because of how this hull was built. It is clinker-built. That word matters. Clinker, sometimes called lapstrake, means each plank overlaps the one below it, like fence boards laid sideways and pinned together with iron rivets. The planks themselves were not sawn. They were split from the oak along the grain, following the tree's own lines, so each board kept its natural spring. A Norse shipwright did not fight the wood. He listened to it. You feel the result every second you are at sea. A rigid hull tries to stand still while the ocean moves around it, and the ocean always wins. A clinker hull does the opposite. It flexes. It twists. It lets the swell pass through it instead of bracing against it. The men who rebuilt these ships in our own time felt exactly this. At the Viking Ship Museum in Roskilde, in Denmark, archaeologists raised 5 waterlogged Norse ships from the fjord in 1962, the Skaldalev ships, and from those wrecks, they reconstructed a 30-meter vessel they named the Sea Stallion from Glendalough. In 2007, a crew sailed her across the North Sea to Dublin and back. And they reported the same thing again and again. The hull worked. The whole boat breathed with the waves. You could watch the timbers move. But here is something the films get wrong. The great ocean crossings were not made in the slim, dragon-headed warships you are picturing. Those were coastal raiders. The Atlantic was crossed in a different ship entirely. The knarr, a deep, broad-bellied cargo vessel built to carry cattle, timber, and whole families across open water. Decode the word simply. The knarr was the Norse ocean freighter, and even the knarr was open in the middle. When the wind died, or the seas turned wrong, the crew took to the oars, the rowing, the bailing, the sitting exposed for days on end. That is where men died, not in a glorious fight, in the slow grind of staying alive. So let us walk through what that grind actually does to you. Out here, your enemy is not an enemy at all. It is the cold and the water and your own body. The North Atlantic does not need to drown you to kill you. It only needs to keep you wet. Soaked through, in a wind, the human body bleeds heat faster than it can make it. Hypothermia sets in long before you feel you are in danger. Your fingers go first, then your judgment. And if you actually go over the side, into water near freezing, survival is not measured in hours. It is measured in minutes. Your only armor is wool. Not just any wool. Norse seafarers wore garments of dense, naturally greasy wool, still rich in lanolin, the oil the sheep's own body makes, which sheds water rather than soaking it up. Some accounts describe sails and clothing further treated with animal fat to push the rain off. It is not a survival suit. It is a thin, stubborn margin between you and the cold. And in an open boat, a thin margin is the only kind there is. Now answer a harder question. How do you even know where you are? You have no compass. The magnetic compass would not reach Northern Europe for centuries yet. You have the sun, the stars, the birds, and your own memory of the sea. The Norse navigated by latitude. You held a known line across the ocean by reading the height of the midday sun and the angle of the pole star at night, and you steered to keep that line. You read the flight of seabirds toward unseen cliffs. You watched for whales, for driftwood, for a single bank of cloud standing still over land you could not yet see. You read the color of the water itself. And then there is the sólarsteinn, the sunstone. The old saga material around King Olaf speaks of a stone that could find the sun in a sky full of cloud. Many researchers think this was Iceland's spar, a clear crystal of calcite that splits light in a way that betrays the sun's position, even when the sun is hidden. Modern experiments have shown the trick can work. But be honest about this, it is disputed. No sunstone has ever been found aboard a confirmed Viking ship. And serious historians still argue over whether the Norse truly used one, or whether the sagas are remembering something half legendary. What is not in dispute is that the directions were real and exact. The Landnama book, the Book of Settlements, preserves actual sailing instructions. Hold this latitude, keep this course, and you will raise Greenland. Men wrote those words because men had survived to say them. But picture the place in between. You are days from the last sight of land behind you, and the land ahead is still nothing. Not a smudge, not a bird, not a cloud. Too far to turn back, too far to see what you are aiming for. Just you. The bailing pail, the oars, and the gray. That stretch breaks people. Not the storm, the waiting inside it. And then, the storm comes anyway. A wave you did not see lifts the open boat sideways. The freeboard, the height of the side above the waterline, was never high on these vessels. And now, it is nothing. Water pours in over the rail. Everything you have is in the bottom of that boat. And so is the sea. So you bail. You bail with everything you have while still trying to keep the bow pointed into the swell, because the moment the boat turns broadside to the waves, it fills, and a full open boat does not float. There is no rescue. There is no other ship. There is only the rhythm. Scoop, throw, scoop, throw. And the hope that the hull flexes one more time without splitting. What did all of this cost? We do not have neat casualty records for the North Atlantic. The sea does not file reports, but the sagas remember the price plainly. When Erik the Red led the great settlement fleet out to Greenland around the year 985, the saga accounts say 25 ships set out. Only 14 arrived. The rest were driven back to Iceland or swallowed by the sea between. That is the figure the medieval texts give, and it tells you everything. To cross was to gamble, and the odds were written in lost ships. Some of those who made it kept going. The saga of the Greenlanders remembers a man named Bjarni Herjólfsson, blown so far off course that he became the first European on record to sight the coast of North America, though he did not land. Leif Erikson, Erik the Red's son, followed his account and went ashore, and we now know they were not telling tall tales. At a place called Lance o Meadows in Newfoundland, the explorers Helge and Anstein Engstad found a genuine Norse settlement in 1960. In 2021, scientists led by researcher Margot Kutams dated the wood the Norse had cut there to the exact year 1021, using a known burst of cosmic radiation locked into the tree rings. The Norse stood in North America almost 5 centuries before Columbus, and they got there in open boats. One more thing, the cold record makes clear. They did not cross in the teeth of an ice age. The Great Expansion came during the medieval warm period, when warmer seas and thinner ice opened a road across the top of the world. When the climate later turned colder and the ice crept back, That road closed. The Greenland colony slowly withered, and in time it was simply gone. The Norse did not conquer the Atlantic forever. They slipped through a window, and the window shut. So strip away the horns and the dragons, and look at what is really there. The Viking crossing was not a triumph of brute force. It was a triumph of engineering and patience. A hull that bent instead of breaking. Wool that shed the sea. A navigator who could hold a line across 1,000 empty miles using the sun, the birds, and a memory of how the water should look. It was risk management, practiced by men who had buried friends who got the risk wrong. That is the thing to carry with you. We tend to imagine the people of the deep past as smaller than us, cruder, closer to luck than to skill. But the man bailing beside you crossed an ocean that would frighten a modern sailor in a modern boat, and he did it with sheep's wool, split oak in the sky. He was not lucky. He was good. The sea comes over the side again. The same wall of freezing water, the same open boat, the same gray with no end. But now you know what is holding it together. Not magic, not madness. A hull that flexes, a navigator who reads the light, and a crew that simply will not stop bailing. That is how the Vikings survived the deadliest crossing in the world. They outthought the sea.